I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
There's a certain kind of movie that never needed any promotion. You didn't rent it on purpose. You didn't schedule time to watch it. You just found it. Your dad would probably be flipping through the channels complaining that nothing was on or he wasn't watching anything, and then he'd land on one movie. And that was it. Remote down, channel locked, end of story. These are dad movies. Movies that were always on TV, always on cable, always on VHS, and somehow always halfway through when you found them. You didn't have to start them at the beginning. You didn't need context. You just watched them and somehow always finished them. So let's start with a great dad movie here. It is The Great Escape. Look, this is the kind of movie that almost all dads respected. It's about Allied POWs planning an elaborate escape from a German prison camp during World War II, and this thing has an outstanding cast in it. But they weren't planning this escape through brute force, but rather patience and teamwork and ingenuity. There's great motorcycle. There's all kinds of stuff in this movie, but there wasn't a ton of flashy action, really, and there were no fast, rapid cuts like you would see today. Just process. This movie really trained an entire generation on how to pay attention and sit still. And if this movie was on, it stayed on because it felt important. It felt big. Even if you didn't fully understand it yet, you somehow just knew it mattered. Then there's Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. This movie drops you into a post-apocalyptic wasteland where gasoline is basically gold and society is gone and survival is everything. And other than that, it barely explains itself at all. And that's why dads loved it. No hand holding, no, just pure minimal dialogue, pure momentum. If this thing came on cable, it didn't matter where you jumped into it, you were staying till that final chase. It was raw, physical, and absolutely cool without trying to be. Mad Max, a great dad movie that was on all the time. Then there are some quieter dad movies that were on all the time, and usually Clint Eastwood might have had something to do with them, and that's the case with the next movie, and that is The Outlaw, Josey Wales. Clint Eastwood in this one plays a former Confederate soldier turned outlaw. He's drifting through sort of the aftermath of the Civil War and forms a makeshift family along the way after his family met a tragic end. This movie is all about loss, about codes, like a warrior's code kind of, which I always dug. This is one of my secret favorite Clint Eastwood movies. It's also partly about minding your own business, which is a good lesson to learn. Your dad probably didn't quote this one, or your grandfather or whatever. They more absorbed it. And when it was on TV, especially on like a Sunday afternoon late in the day, the room just kind of got quiet and you watched Clint Eastwood do his thing in The Outlaw, Josey Wales. And then turning to a movie that's definitely not so quiet, but still very reflective and profound. It is John Carpenter's They Live. At first glance, this one kind of looks like a simple, straightforward sci-fi action horror film about a drifter, Rowdy Roddy Piper, who discovers sunglasses that reveal a hidden alien message that is showing him that the messages are all showing him that aliens control society. But the longer you watch it, the more it sinks in. This is one of those movies that, you know, dads, granddads, uncles, all that kind of stuff, they sort of stumbled into and then suddenly realized it had a lot more to say. It also had one of the longest fist fight action sequences in movie history, one-on-one fights, and it had Roddy Piper from wrestling. So it was the perfect cable TV, old like TBS or late night movie watch for its kind. It was weird, smart, it is infinitely rewatchable, and somehow it used to always be on TV. And then there is the other Clint Eastwood movie that was on every time I turned around. Either my grandfather was watching it or my dad was watching it. We had TBS back in the day, and this thing was always on. I'm talking about Escape from Alcatraz. This is sort of like dad movie minimalism, and it's Clint Eastwood again, as I mentioned, but this time he's playing Frank Morris, I believe it is. I haven't seen it in a while. A prisoner who's attempting the impossible, which is to escape from the most secure prison in America, Alcatraz. Just that name, people know it. It's legendary. There's no big speeches in this movie, no score, there's not a big sweeping score telling you how to feel from scene to scene in this. It's just routine, patience, and observance in this movie. It's another one that would have a hard time today because it's not rapid like, dangling string in front of a cat. But this is the kind of movie that dads loved because it respected intelligence and perseverance. If it was on at night, middle of the day, it didn't matter. Somebody was watching this thing until the end. Escape from Alcatraz. And let's lighten it up a little bit for the next one, which is one of my favorites. It's one of my friend Chance's favorites, and it's my stepdad's favorite, and my dad watched it all the time too. That is Smokey and the Bandit. And this one is like fun dad mode right here. It's about a cross-country beer run, eastbound and down. They're trying to get Coors from Texarkana back to Atlanta. Big personalities. Burt Reynolds and his pure swagger in this, Sally Field, Jackie Gleason. This movie lived on TV because it was endlessly entertaining. You got a VHS before that. It lived at the drive-in before that. No matter where you dropped in, it worked. This movie is the one where your dad quotes lines from it, like, "You some bitch," all that kind of stuff. Eastbound and down, you're singing the song. They don't make fun movies like this anymore. This is one of those movies where somebody would say, they just don't make movies like this anymore. And they're right. I think this is also the first movie that had end credits gag reel in it. So very cool thing there. And you could see that as well on TV and on VHS. Ultimate fun dad movie, Smokey and the Bandit. Now, the next one is one that if you're younger and you hear the name today and you hear who's the star of it, it tends to get misunderstood. But First Blood, the first Rambo movie, it wasn't called Rambo First Blood initially, it was just First Blood, is a very misunderstood movie that's not an action movie in the way that the subsequent Rambos are, 2, 3, and so on. This one is based off a novel, and it's about a traumatized Vietnam veteran pushed too far by authorities and a misunderstanding. It's quiet, it's sad, it has some action, but not in the way we think of action movies. And dads took this one serious. Like, this one has real gravitas to it. The ending scene monologue is one of the greatest monologues in cinema history. It wasn't about winning, it was about surviving. It was about not being left behind. It was about overcoming and just fighting for survival and what you feel is right in your heart. When this one was on TV, or if it was on VHS, it hit very, very different. First Blood, Stallone, a very great film that still holds up today, and an ultimate dad movie. And when you want to talk about movies that were on VHS all the time, and certainly on TV and cable all the time, you have to talk about Jaws. Let's be honest, you could argue Jaws is the ultimate dad movie, but the problem is it's the ultimate everybody movie. It's one of the greatest films ever made. But when you get that dad aspect to dig into it, because you've got a small town that, as I get older as a dad, I kind of like, man, I would like to live in that small town and be chill. But you got that small town environment. You've got a sheriff who's that small town sheriff who's left the hustle and bustle and the stress behind. That's something that dads could pine for. Like me, he's left that stress behind, and he's the small town sheriff with the authority. He's respected. He's got a family. And then you throw in a shark. If Jaws was on, it stayed on. It does in my house to this day. Doesn't matter if you were 10 minutes in it or you were an hour into it. The film is perfectly paced. Maybe not if you're used to TikTok reels, but this is how you pace and edit a film. It's perfectly structured. This movie didn't just play on TV, it owned TV. It didn't just have VHSs, it owned VHSs. It owns physical media formats today and re-releases. Jaws is the top of the line. It had to be on here. We had to discuss this when we're talking about movies, dad movies, uncle movies, grandfather movies, just awesome movies that were on all the time. But we have a couple of more films to talk about here. And when you talk about always being on and being a dad movie and just quintessential hell yeah type of movies, you got to talk about Roadhouse. Roadhouse is a movie that probably shouldn't work. Today, it would not work. They'd never take a risk. They'd never let a film be this sincere and just be unabashedly what it is. But you have Patrick Swayze in here, who is a philosophical, well-educated bouncer hired to clean up the double deuce in a corrupt town. You've got fists fighting. You've got honor. You've got oddly specific rules. Be nice until it's time not to be nice. And the movie commits to all of this fully. There's no wink, there's no self-referential, there's no taking shots, no apologizing for what it is, no irony, no apology to the audience, just saying, hell yes, this is our world and this is what we're doing, and dads and everyone loved it because of that. The movie believed in itself completely, and it made you believe in it, and cable and TBS and TNT played it constantly, and if you didn't have that, you had the VHS of Roadhouse. And finally, there is the Beastmaster. Come on, this is a cable TV, broadcast TV, and VHS legend. Like, there are jokes that HBO stood for, hey, Beastmaster's on, all right? But growing up, when we didn't have the money for HBO, I can tell you that the cut down version was also on TBS, the Superstation TBS, all of the time too. And you could rent this thing on VHS, and it was a sword and sorcery fantasy done by Don Coscarelli about a warrior who can talk to animals and fights evil cults for revenge on what happened to his family. He got Rip Torn being this crazy sorcerer ruler guy. You got monsters engulfing people and eating them. It wasn't perfect. It didn't have to be perfect. It is perfect in what it is. It was there. It was something that was always on, always playing. I've said before, I think for a lot of people, this movie became a memory to them before it became a movie that they really watched, enjoyed, and went back to. But Beastmaster, I still have it to this day. It's one of my favorite movies. There's a big tie between me and my dad, which gave me the idea for this list. The power of these movies is to bridge generations and stand the test of time and bring people together to watch and rewatch and enjoy films in a way that films today just can't do. They're more content, they're more disposable, they're more background. These movies demanded your attention, so much so that you are okay with rewatching them again and again every time they were on. Hey Bubba, Beastmaster is on. My dad said it all the time. Hey, Beastmaster is on. It's HBO. Whatever. That just lets you know the power of these films. So there you go. For me, these are some, and by no means is this all of them, but these are some of the dad movies that were always on VHS, TV, cable, all that kind of stuff. You probably watched them in your living rooms, laying on the floor, maybe with an old CRT TV on a shag carpet somewhere with brown paneling on your wall, stuff like that. Later on, you got your own room and you had your plastic little black and white TV with your band sticker stuck all over it. These are memories that are real. That's what movies that can do, movies like this especially, that weren't designed to just be huge, big budget things that are forgotten later or played in the background. They were designed to be watched, engaged, rewatched, stumbled upon, lived with, and stand the test of time. They weren't chasing trends. They became part of everyday life, and that is why they lasted. So what is your ultimate dad movie? What are the movies you think of that are on all the time? Let me know. Let me know about the ones you grew up with and enjoyed. This is just a little fun trip down memory lane, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. If you want to help support what we're doing here more, you can join my Patreon. The link is in the description, and you'll get your name and lights on every single video, behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, special members only videos, deep dive 4K review videos of new physical media, new movie reviews, all kinds of stuff, and everything goes right back into the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. It's Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.